and today I am bringing you my June wrap-up. In June, I read 2 novels, and I participated in the Manga readathon, which was hosted by Laura and her sister Jen. Laura's channel is Manga Hoarder, and Jen's channel is Shelf Space Fleeting, and I will link both of their channels down in the description box below. And so I read an abundance of manga on top of the 2 novels I read. I think I read 12 volumes of manga in total, not all for the readathon, but 12 volumes during the month. So the whole point of the manga readathon was to read more manga than you usually do in a week, and I've been averaging about 3 volumes of manga a month, and so I did do what the readathon set out to do. I read 7 volumes of manga in a week. So you might notice that my backdrop is a little different than it usually is. That is because it is scorching hot where I am, and I am unable to film in my house because of it. I do not have air conditioning at my house, and so even with the coolers and stuff, if I have to put on my studio lights, it gets very, very warm. And so I am borrowing a coworker's office today so that I can film this wrap-up for you. If you are waiting for a Yarny update, that may take a little longer because it's a little bit more difficult for me to lug all of my knitting and crochet projects to the office and still try to be inconspicuous about it at the same time. But yeah, I am on my lunch break right now and thought that I would just get this filmed. And so let's just get into it. The first book I read was Split Second. This is the first book in the Sean King and Michelle Maxwell series by David Baldacci. I read this as part of the World of Sleuths read-along group, which is hosted by Tim. His channel is called World of Sleuths. You may also recognize him because he was one of the March Mystery Madness hosts for 2018. He does 4 different selections in a month, and June was his first month doing the read-alongs. I just picked one of the books, and I've never read a David Baldacci book before. Split Second is about 2 Secret Service agents. Sean King was a Secret Service agent who was protecting a presidential candidate, and during one of the candidate's functions, the candidate gets shot and killed, and therefore Sean's career is down the drain. Now we fast forward 8 years later, and Michelle Maxwell is protecting a presidential candidate of her own, and her candidate gets kidnapped on her watch. So she's trying to find her candidate, and she teams up with Sean King, and they're both working the case to try to find her candidate, and things pop up during their investigation that kind of brings up questions in regards to Sean's situation and what the incidents leading up to Sean's candidate getting killed entailed. This book I thought was a really good introduction to the 2 characters, and I really enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing more of their work together, Michelle and Sean, and I believe World of Sleuths read-alongs has the 2nd book in this series as one of their July picks, and I will be trying to read that in the month of July. So I'll link Tim's channel down below, as well as the Goodreads group where the read-alongs are being hosted, and I hope you join in for some of those. So I ended up giving that book 4 stars, and I should probably say that all of the books that I read in June other than two, I gave 4 stars, and I'll let you know which two books those were when I get to those. So 4 stars, really enjoyed it and looking forward to the next one. The second book I read was the 9th book in the Witchcraft Mystery series by Juliet Blackwell. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I really enjoy this series. It's become one of my favorite series over the last few years. In this series, it focuses on a witch named Lily Ivory, and she also owns a vintage clothing shop. And in this installment, Lily is dealing with a case of mistaken identity regarding someone who's very close to her, and this person is being accused of murder. And so Lily's trying to find out how the identity was mistaken and what's going on, and trying to clear this person's name. Now, I can't really give you more than that because it is the 9th book in the series, but I did enjoy it, and I was a little bit disappointed because I was expecting that there was going to be a certain event show up in this book, and it didn't. So even though I was a little disappointed, I still really enjoyed this book, and I'm still very much enjoying this series, and I'm looking forward to seeing if the event that I was waiting for pops up in the 10th installment. So those were the 2 novels that I read in the month of June. Now we'll get into the manga. I started reading a couple volumes of manga before the manga readathon started. So I had borrowed volumes 54, 55, and 56 of Fairy Tale by Hiro Mashima. You know that I've been reading this series for quite a while. We are getting into the last few volumes. In fact, I have borrowed the remaining volumes from the library, so I will be reading those, or endeavoring to read those, in the month of July. But Fairy Tale follows our group of wizards from the Fairy Tale Guild on their adventures. And in these volumes, 54, 55, and 56, some revelations occur in regards to a few of the characters, and things are getting very interesting, and the battle is beginning, and so I really am still enjoying the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things end up as the series comes to a close. I read volumes 54 and 55 before the readathon started, and volume 56 was my first volume that I finished during the readathon. And I also participated in the Manga Bingo on Instagram, so I was posting my finds for the bingo board on there. So if you're interested in seeing what I found, head over to my Instagram, which is linked down in the description box below. I did not get a bingo at all, but I did find quite a few of the blocks, so it was super fun to participate in the manga bingo. And I am thinking that maybe I might just take like maybe last year's bingo board and this year's bingo board and just check off things as just a fun activity to do as I find them, as I read more manga. And then I started into Food Wars. So I read volume 1 for the manga readathon. And Food Wars is also called Shokugeki no Soma. This is by Yuto Tsukuda, art by Shun Saeki, contributions by Yuki Morisaki. So volume 1 I read for the manga readathon, and I did find something for the manga bingo in this as well. I ended up reading volume 2 after the readathon was over, but I'm going to just talk about them together. I have about 20 volumes of this series in my library, my library, like my personal library, and I bought them at Barnes and Noble on last summer's Viz publisher sale, and I just never picked them up until now. And so I was excited to get into it because it was one of the challenges for the readathon was read series that's new to you or a new manga. And so I thought, well, that would be a perfect opportunity to finally get into this series. And so this series follows Soma, and he's this guy right here. And at the very beginning, there's like a cooking battle between him and his dad, and his dad wins, and Soma's like super focused on becoming a better chef than his dad. Now, Soma's dad owns a small family restaurant, and Soma really wants to take over the restaurant when he gets older. But his dad decides that he's going to take a job in the United States for a while and send Soma to a prestigious cooking school, and basically tell Soma, if you can't make it there, there's no way you can take over the restaurant. And so this kind of follows Soma and how he gets along at the school and his cooking techniques and things that he comes up with and friends that he makes and things like that. Now, I really enjoyed the cooking in this series, but when the characters taste Soma's food or any really good food in this series, people tend to lose their clothes. That I don't like so much. But the cooking is very interesting, and reading how Soma comes up with the techniques that he uses for the foods that he makes is also very interesting, and it does include some recipes. So I'm a little bit torn about this series. Now, this volume had more food reactions, putting it nicely, than this volume, or at least I felt like it did. I didn't actually count, but this is rated for older teen, and those reactions kind of put me off of this series. We haven't watched the anime prior to reading this, and truthfully, my daughter did kind of warn me a little bit about the reactions, but I didn't think it was going to be to the extent that it is. Now, I don't know if those reactions dwindle in number as the volumes get further on into the series, but we did watch the first episode of this anime after we read these 2 volumes, and I don't think I will be watching the anime any further. It's going to take me a little bit to try to get into a frame of mind where I'm going to be able to read through this series more, because I was a little shocked, to be honest. I wasn't really expecting that type of thing, and yeah. So I ended up giving this volume 3 stars, but I gave this volume 4 stars because, like I said, I did feel like it had less of the food reactions in it, so it was a little bit more palatable for me. But I do enjoy the recipes, and I do enjoy the cooking aspects. I just don't enjoy like the reactions. So another funny thing that happened is that Soma's dad, they tell you how old he is in this first volume. Soma's dad is the same age as I am. Soma is a little younger than my daughter. But Soma refers to his dad as old man in this volume, and I'm like, so I asked my daughter, I'm like, Soma refers to his dad as old man. Do you see me as an old woman? She's like, no, mommy. But I thought that was a little funny because I was like, old man, huh? But yeah, so 3 stars, 4 stars. I read this one for the Manga Readathon. So the 3rd and 4th volumes I read for the Manga Readathon were volumes 9 and 10 of LDK. I kind of marathoned this series last year. Volumes 9 and 10 were new additions to my collection, and so I read these 2 thinking that I had caught up in the series, which was another challenge in the readathon. But after I had gotten 10, I guess another volume or so came out or was released, and so I need to go get that one. And I really do enjoy this story. It is about these 2 high school students, Aoi and Shusei, and circumstances happen in the first volume and they end up having to live together, and this is kind of their story about trying to keep it secret from other students and how their relationship grows and things like that. And so yeah, I really enjoy this one. It is by Ayu Watanabe, and if you are a subscriber of Netflix, there is a drama there, a Japanese drama called Good Morning Call, and that drama is also based on a manga, I believe of the same name, but I'm not sure who the mangaka is. But the story, at least in the beginning, is very similar to LDK. So if you like that kind of premise, then I definitely check Good Morning Call out. There are 2 seasons of it on Netflix, and I did actually watch that drama in June, both seasons, and I really enjoyed that as well. So 4 stars, really enjoyed this one. I do own this series and am collecting it, and so I look forward to seeing what happens with these 2 in future volumes. Then the next 2 volumes of manga I read were Shuriken and Pleats, volumes 1 and 2. This one is by Matsuri Hino, who is also the mangaka for Vampire Knight, which I own but haven't actually completed reading. So I have watched the anime though, and I do enjoy it. But this I read for the challenge of read your shortest title in your collection. So this is a 2-volume title. This one follows Mikage, and she is a ninja, and she, I think, is like 16 years old, and she is like she has like a master, or someone she calls a master, but it's like someone she's like protecting. That's like her job. She needs to protect this person, and this person is like a father figure to her, kind of. I don't want to say anything else because it'll give away plot points, but he tells her one night that he wishes that she would stop being a ninja and just be a normal girl, and the next day he gets killed. And so Mikage decides to try to fulfill her master's last wish, and so she tries to become a regular girl. And that doesn't work out so well because she ends up meeting a guy who is in danger, and she decides that she will take him up on his request to protect him as her like final job. So I did enjoy this two-part series. Something didn't sit right with me in volume 2, but nonetheless it was an enjoyable series. It was a little bit humorous, and I do enjoy Matsuhino's artwork very much. And so yeah, I ended up giving both of these volumes 4 stars. I did find things for the manga bingo in this as well. So that takes my volumes of manga for the readathon up to 6. And then the last volume I read for the readathon was Yokai Rental Shop, and this is by Shin Mashiwa. And this I read purely for the manga bingo because I knew I could find at least one of the blocks for the bingo card in this volume, and that block was yokai. And so this one follows Hiiragi Yasase, and he, upon his, is it mother? It's either his mother or his father. His mother passes away at the beginning of this story, and he finds out on her deathbed that he has a half-brother from his father, and his father had died like before he was born or something. And anyway, he goes to find his half-brother, and his half-brother is the owner of what looks like a pet shop. So he goes inside and he looks for his brother, but his brother does own a pet shop. The outside facade is a pet shop, but behind the scenes it's a yokai rental shop, and his brother is actually this character right here. And I can't remember what the brother's name is, and it's not on the back of the volume, but nevertheless, Hiiragi is very confused, and not only by the appearance, but obviously the brother is quite eccentric. And he finds out about the yokai rental shop when a customer comes in to rent one of the yokai. So how that works is that the customer comes in, states their problem, says that they want to rent one of the yokai, and completes a contract to rent the yokai in blood. And so this story is set up much like the other series I read by this mangaka, which is called Nightmare Inspector, and it's little like short stories, so each customer has like their own story, and you kind of see how their rental takes place and what they use the yokai for and things like that. So I really enjoyed this one. It was pretty different, I'd say, from Nightmare Inspector, which is the other title this mangaka has written that I've read. And yeah, I'm really interested in this one. I actually got this one during a Manga Monday sale for Barnes & Noble, which is why I only have the first volume. But yeah, I really enjoyed this volume. I will be collecting the rest of it. And yeah, so that was my 7th volume for the Manga Readathon. So after the Manga Readathon was over, I was still in the mood to read manga. And since I had read Yokai Rental Shop by Shin Mashima, it really made me want to go back to Nightmare Inspector. And I had read up to volume 7. And so recently I had collected the last 2 volumes in the series. It was volumes 8 and volume 9. And so I decided to finish up the series. This series is about a baku, or a dream eater, who stays at the Silver Star Tea House. And I'm just going to read you the little blurb on the back. And it's like a general blurb. It's on the back of all of the volumes. And it says, for those who suffer nightmares, help awaits at the Silver Star Tea House, where patrons can order much more than just Darjeeling. Hiruko is a special kind of private investigator. He's a dream eater, and he'll rid you of your darkest visions for a price. And so each of these volumes in the previous 7 were chapters. They're like each customer that comes to look for the dream eater has their own story, and like in Yokai Rental Shop, you see their dream and how Hiruko helps them through the dream and things like that. But Volume 9 was very different, and the setup for what happens in Volume 9 starts at the end of Volume 8. And there's always been this like underlying story regarding Hiruko's past and some of the patrons of the Silver Star Tea House, and they attempted to close that story and give answers to that in Volume 9, but for me, it didn't work. Not only that, it was very confusing. Now, with a lot of the dreams and how they're interpreted and how they end in this series, they always, well, most of them made me think about them a lot. Like, you read them, you kind of understand them, but I found myself still thinking about them days after and trying to understand, like, or find a deeper meaning to what happened, or if there was something that I missed. And a lot of times upon thought, I did realize that there was something else that was trying to be said, or I understood more what happened. But I thought about what happened at the end of Volume 9 for quite a bit, like maybe a week after I read it, and I'm still confused. Like, I understand what happened, but I don't know the reason for why we're told what happens, I guess. I would have much preferred if they had just left that story open and stopped at Volume 8. But I did step away from this series for quite a long time. I'm not even sure when I read Volume 7. So I think it might be worth it for me to reread this series in succession all at one time and see if I get a better understanding of what happens in the end. But Volume 9, needless to say, was my other 3-star read for the month of June. So I do still recommend this series quite a bit because, like I said, the dreams are very thought-provoking, and I really, really enjoyed this series when I first started reading it, and through Volume 8. Like I said, Volume 9 was still confusing, and even though I don't quite understand it, I still enjoyed it. And that still doesn't prevent me from recommending this series. So yeah, if you do get a chance to check out this series, I would definitely do so. And yeah, I will be revisiting this to see if my thoughts change on it after reading the volumes back to back. But that was the last of the mangas that I read in the month of June. So now that we're into July, I have tried to pick up a couple of different novels. But I'm still like in the mood to read manga. And this is what happened to me last summer as well. So I'm not sure. I am listening to The Heart Forger, which is the second book in the Bone Witch series by Rin Chapiko. I did read the first one last year as advanced reader's copy, and that one is about a bone witch. And the title of the book is called The Bone Witch, and it's about a dark asha, and dark asha can also are also necromancers. And so I'm reading through the second one of that. I'm actually listening to an audiobook, which is making it a lot easier for me to get through it. And having the audio is helping me a lot because this story does bounce back and forth between past and present a lot. And while I was reading the physical copy last year of the first volume, I had a really hard time distinguishing what was past and what was present. But because there's a female narrator for the past and a male narrator for the present, that really helps me a lot in keeping me from being confused as to where I am. And I am enjoying that one. I'm also trying to read 2 physical books at the moment, but that's very slow going because, like I said, we did borrow the last of the volumes of Fairy Tale from the library, and I really want to get into that and finish that series off and see where that story ends. And yeah, just really enjoying my manga reading right now. It's obviously very hot here. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy the heat at all. I'm not a summer person. So I hope things are better for you are. Let me know if you read any of these titles or if you participated in the manga readathon in June. Like I said, I will link all of the Goodreads groups, YouTube channels down in the description box below, so you can check Laura's channel, Jen's channel, and Tim's channel out and maybe join in on some manga reading or read-alongs with the World of Sleuths read-alongs. And for those of you who are not aware, Book One Cozy's Club is doing a quarterly read-along now. It is no longer a monthly read-along. So we are still reading Murder in the Mystery Suite, which is the first book in the Book Retreat Mystery series by Ellery Adams. And we will be reading that until the end of August. So if you are interested in trying out a cozy mystery or reading along with us, just head over to the Goodreads group for the discussion thread, and the group is also linked down in the description box below. So yeah, I hope you are all staying cool and doing great. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.